Today we're going to be talking about how Jesus searches for all who are lost. And, this parable is going to be, we're going to have two parables today. You get two parables, not just one, but two, but they're the same point right in a row. And they are really helpful in understanding who Jesus is, right? And so as we go through these parables, be thinking, this is who Jesus is, the full representation of God. This is who God is, as we try to think about these two parables. And the parables are about losing things. Losing sheep and losing a coin. Now, what I want to do is I want you to start out with a little exercise for you today. Think about a time that you lost something that was very valuable to you. Okay, just think about that time. Think about something you lost that was very valuable, and you've been searching for it, right? Okay, let's say it out loud. What are some things that you think about in your mind when you think about something you lost? You go, oh, and you started searching for this valuable to you. What is it? A child. Yes. That feeling like, oh no, they're not going to make a movie about this, are they? Oh no, this is horrible. And then all of a sudden you find that child and it's like, oh, or you don't and it's horrible, right? So what else? Keys. What's there? Quiet time. Okay. What's that? The phone. Oh, the phone has everything on it, yeah. Anything else? Stuffed animals. That's I know. Ellie said that, I bet you. So here's the thing about this. Now, I'm an expert on losing things. Debbie will tell you this. Actually, I get better and better at losing things the older I get. It's very much a common thing in our house. It used to be that I was quite a bit more forgetful than Debbie, but Debbie's starting to catch up a little bit. She used to laugh at me with a loving harassment, like, I know exactly what you're doing. And I always ask her, do you know where such and such is? No, I do not know where your phone is, David, right? Now it's gotten to a point where we're just really kind to each other. We just laugh and smile and help each other find things, right? Now, I've learned as an old person that there's a place you misplace things. And I call there's a big difference here. Misplaced things mean you just go back and you remember you left it in the refrigerator or whatever. But the reality of it, the other part is the place you lose something, right? And that spot in which you lose things, that feeling you have when something's valuable and you lose it. You know that feeling, right? Now, if it's these glasses, these are reader glasses, I just grab another pair. That's why I have 100 reader glasses in different places in my home. But when it's my phone or when it's my wallet, you know that feeling? My wallet. And you start looking and it's gone past the place of misplaced and you know it's lost, what are you going to do? You're going to find that thing, right? Now, when I was in grade school, we had a dog, and his name was Laddie. And Laddie was a Sheltie Sheep dog, and he was a great dog, very smart, always stayed within the yard. Had one problem. When thunder would come, he would freak out. One time we couldn't find him for a long time till he went in the basement in the dryer, and he was inside the dryer. So he really freaked out with noise. Unfortunately, we forgot this on New Year's Eve when all the family went out for a party, and he was still outside. And when we came home, we realized, fireworks. Dog ran. Fireworks. Dog ran some more. So the next morning, we think he's going to come back. Doesn't come back. Next day, we go out. We got looking for him all day long. Can't find him. We're just devastated. New Year's Day, we're walking all over the place. I've never yelled the name Laddie, Laddie as many times as a kid. We'd drive through a car, and we'd be on each side yelling Laddie, going up and down the streets. We would go by the interstates. After school, I would get off. I would go out and roam yelling Laddie for weeks, right? Eventually, my parents realized we got to get a life back. And so they had an idea. We're going to run an ad in the journal, the paper, which goes to about 100,000 people, in the lost and found for this dog. And if nothing happens, then we'll have to say Laddie and we're going to have a funeral. And so, as a kid, I knew what they were doing, trying to get us to quit going out every night looking for Laddie. And so, but I prayed. As a kid, I didn't pray much. I can remember. I remember praying, like, God, this is a big one. You get Laddie back here. Right? My brother's probably praying the same thing. We're at a spot where then we watched. And then that Sunday afternoon, I remember, as a kid, watching the clock go down to 3 o'clock, to 4 o'clock, to 5 o'clock, and no call, and it's dark outside. And my heart is sinking. And then the phone rings. We pick it up, and the guy says, I might have your dog. He was in another town, out on a construction site, and we were feeding him, and he looked so beat up, we thought he was a stray, but then we noticed he had a collar, but didn't have your name on it. So, and so he kind of described it, and we thought, I don't know if I started talking. Now he's been hit by a car, and he can't walk, and we can't afford an operation, and you can come over and see him if you want. So we drove over there, and if you can imagine what this felt like to have two kids who had been praying all day for this dog. And I remember the guy who was kind that had called us, and he could see that we have these two kids it's either going to be their dog or not going to be the dog. And even if it is their dog, the dog can't get up because the dog's been hit by a car. And so I remember opening the garage door, and it was Laddie. And Laddie got up and got to us by dragging his rear end to us, and we were like joy to the limit. This is a hallmark moment, man. We are like, we couldn't keep our hands off of Laddie for the rest of the night. The whole family spent their night around Laddie picking the cuckleburs, which we had a whole grocery staff, and brushing his hair, and he just took it all in, right? Found out he had a hernia, it was fixed, he was back to normal. But as I think about that, it's this feeling of when something that you believe is lost is found, there's something different about that. It brings you to a place of joy. It brings you to a place of appreciation, a way that was always there, but now you feel it at this intensified level, right? Now, I want to look at this parable, and to put it into context, we're going to start in Luke 15, 1 and 2. And it says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. So at the time, the religious leaders, the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were really disgusted with Jesus, and here's why. These people who are blatantly going against the Mosaic law, against the Torah, were just obviously sinners, notorious, known for that, right? These are the people that Jesus not only would talk to and associate with, but he'd eat with them. And they hated that. Now, as we think about that, we start seeing this characteristic of Jesus, is that people who lived opposite of all that Jesus believed in, which is the law, and his own teachings, Jesus seemed to be the most attracted to. He's the person that they would come to him. A person who was kind of notorious for her sexual sin would love and feel safe to drop at his feet, right? And to risk their reputation just to get near him. And yet that person was living opposite of what Jesus was teaching. We see the same thing. Now, you understand this really traveled into lots of the way the religious leaders looked at things. Even the sick, even the people who are blind or crippled, they often look and say, oh, this person did this because of sin, right? They condemned so many people. And all those people, Jesus was always going towards where they were going away from. As you think about that, we see it all the way in the New Testament. Matthew, the tax collector, is who he picks. I mean, you have to realize, Matthew was hated by people. He was a disgusting scumbag to the Jewish people. And he says, I like you, And we go along, we see the thing of Zacchaeus, someone who was a traitor. I mean, everybody hated him. He was making money off of the Jewish people through Rome. And he says, I want to come to dinner with you. Let's go to dinner. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say he's a glutton, he's a drunkard, he's a friend of tax collectors and sinners. So he's a friend of sinners. So this is the context in which the two parables come. The question is, you want to know why this is? You know why I do this? Because this is God's heart, and he gives a parable to describe this of God's heart. And he says, so Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep.' Now, in the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than the 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away." And he goes to a second story. And he says, "Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, 'Rejoice with me because I have found my lost coin.' In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels whenever even one sinner repents." Now, these two stories, this place of the lost sheep and the lost coin, what you see in these parables is these three parts on both the stories emphasizing these three things. The understanding that they're lost and the alertness that takes to the point they begin searching. And then there's this finding part where they find the sheep and they pat the sheep up on her shoulders. They find the coin and they say, "This is the coin." They have to understand the coin was from a dowry, which is probably 10 coins, like a necklace you'd see in the Middle East around the head. It'd be like a wedding ring. The person would be wearing it would be one of her most precious pieces of jewelry. And so it was a set. So they understand this. One of those coins is lost from the set. One of the sheep is lost from the 99. And so as we look at this, what we start seeing in this is that there's this place in which that this parable is now explaining, again, paralleling this story, that the shepherd is Jesus, the woman is Jesus, we are the sheep, and we are the coin. And understanding that, we start understanding the value that this is describing that we are to God, that we are to Christ. And as you think about that, you think about this whole place in which that, what happens is all things become secondary because this valuable thing has to be found. There's no option. Everything else goes off the table. This is what we focus on. That shows this tremendous value in this place of recognizing how valuable it is by just the loss that is shown in this. It's so extreme that I have to go out to do this. And the second part is this place of searching. Notice this place of searching and how much there is taking place there. That he goes out searching and sweeping the house. You know that feeling? See, it's to capture this feeling of like, I've lost things. Have you been in a spot where you look at ridiculous places? I mean, the most ridiculous places, like, I think I'll check the medicine cabinet. I don't think why I would put myself on the medicine cabinet, but I'm going to just check in case. I think I'll climb upside down and turn 2 couches over just in case. I mean, we just start sweeping, saying, how can I find this? In the same way as the shepherd, looking to find that sheep. This is the feeling it's getting across. This thing of highly valued. And then as we look at these two comparisons of these two different scriptures, notice how long the search goes for. How long does the search go for? Until he finds it. Until she finds it. It's like, I'm not changing. This doesn't change. There's not like, let's call it the search. It never stops. This is describing the heart of Jesus, our King. He is a person who, when he sees the lost, those who have been separated from him, he goes towards them. He begins searching for them. Now just take that in. You're the sheep. And Jesus, the price he paid to search for you who are lost. That he never will stop. That he considers you that valuable. You're the lost coin. You're the sheep. And think about that moment in which that he finds you and think of the expression on Jesus' face of lifting you on his shoulders, or expression of this woman. And what's strange about this, not only are the shepherds filled with joy, not only the woman filled with joy, she says everybody has to know about this. It's so big it overflows to the point they said, let's have a party. Because this person who is lost is now found. This sheep that is lost is now found. This coin that's lost is now found. So just think about that. If you really think about it, it's overwhelming. To really take this in is, this is what Jesus feels about you. There's a psalm that I love. The psalmist is trying to figure out how in the world this can be that God sees me and cares about me. He's perplexed. And the psalmist says, when I consider your heavens and the work of your fingers, and the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them? It's perplexed. Like, you're the God who put this into place, and you're telling me you pay this kind of attention to me? Right? And this is a description of that psalm to another level, where it's like, how could this be? Think about this. Think about yourself. How could this be? First off, you understand in these two parables, what is very clear is the coin belongs to the woman, and the sheep belongs to the shepherd. So just think about that whole word belonging. How can it be that I belong to you in that way? Who am I that you would drop everything to search for me? Who am I that at my worst state, you actually pick me up and put me on your shoulders? And then when you come in town with me, you say, let's have a party, because this amazing things happen. Who am I that you value to this level? Who am I that you love me like this? This is just, Jesus loves the lost. When you reflect on these stories of this coin and the sheep, and you start to understand, this is paralleling, this is you. You know, you can just take that feeling maybe you had when your child was lost, if you had that feeling you had of finding that child after you thought they were lost. And that's a sinful person like us thinking that. What does it feel like for God when we're lost, and how he feels towards us? How he just, his heart's not right until you're back where you belong. That's you. That's how Jesus feels about us. Now, and it parallel in number 10, the point of it is this: in the same way it felt for those two people we just talked about, there is joy in the presence of God's angels. There's a celebration in heaven whenever one sinner repents. Repenting is a point of finding, right? Now, when you hear the word repent, sinner, lost, saved, it has often baggage because people have put it in many condemning, self-righteous ways, but it's a beautiful thing to understand what this means. It really just means this place in which that we are at a spot where when we sin, it separates from God. And that means that we're lost from God. And when he comes to us, because of his love and mercy, all we do is let him pick us up and we're back. That's repentance, turning back and allowing him to receive his mercy. And as you think about that, this is what you see when you see Zacchaeus. Remember Zacchaeus? He's a wee little man. Yeah, I'm sorry. For those people in Bible school know what I'm talking about. So Zacchaeus was this tax collector, hated, despised, has him over for dinner. I want to come to your house. And he's with this person that people don't want to be near, but he is there for that person because he knows Zacchaeus is away and he wants him to go back to where he belongs. He wants him to experience the life that God has for him. And in that spot, Zacchaeus believes in Jesus. And the response is, when after Zacchaeus believes in Jesus, he goes, salvation, Jesus says, has come to this home, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. He did not come to condemn the world, but to save it. This is a statement of why he loves to be around people who are lost and loves to find them. We all are lost, right? It's pretty clear. We, like sheep, it says in Isaiah, have gone astray. Each has turned to his own way, but the Lord has laid the iniquity of us all on him, speaking of Jesus prophetically 700 years beforehand. This is who Jesus is. Now, when we think of this, we often think primarily about John 3:16, for God so loved the world, and those who believe him have everlasting life. We think of it as a spot of saving us in this place of eternity, which is true. It's a place of coming into the relationship with Jesus, becoming part of his kingdom, and this place that not knowing Jesus and being lost and being saved as well. And so, that is true. For me in grade school, I was in grade school and I went to a service at night, and someone explained for the first time to me about sin. And I wasn't like a notorious sinner. I was a pretty good kid. But man, when I understood it, I understood that I needed something that I couldn't do to get to God. And I knew that Jesus was that answer. And I remember receiving his mercy and forgiveness as clear as can be. And from that point on, I was his. I was back. Right? I remember it so clearly. And I realized he found me that night. He literally found me. And I said yes quickly. But what many of us humans do, over time as I grew up and got a little older, I started finding myself in places where I kept making choices to sin. Pretty easy. And at the time, it just kept snowballing to the place when I started recognizing I didn't really know how to get out of it. I mean, there's a verse in Isaiah that says, can a woman forget her nursing child, that she should have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. So we have a different story here. I'm actually out there knowing Jesus, but sin has now got a hold of me, and I'm lost. I don't know how to get back, even though I know that's what I should do. And Jesus wouldn't forget me. He couldn't forget me. And it got to a place that it got a bit crazy sometimes, because in the middle of these ugly, ugly choices I was making at this stage in my life, by choice, blatantly, it was so strange because I could feel God often at these moments of my worst choices. There's one time, I even hate to say it, but I was at a party, and a bunch of people ganged up on a close friend of mine, and he was drunk, and we humiliated him in horrible ways I won't say, and we took pictures, I guess to torment him. I'm not sure what we were doing, but I did it, right? And I remember the next morning when I woke up thinking about this, like, what happened? And I could feel my ugliness and my sin. I could feel God's presence just being there, not condemning me, but just light. And I remember I just pushed it away, right? I remember points in where I remember being after a really party where it went to a really dark spot. It went to another level of depravity. I'm laying around in the bed, and all of a sudden I feel God's presence, Jesus in the room. And I just went to sleep as quick as I could, right? I remember being in a car, sliding back and forth in the back seat where everybody was wasted in the car. We were doing about 80 to 90 miles an hour on a dirt road, turning out the headlights, and I knew I was going to die. And I remember thinking to God, I don't want to die. And I felt Jesus right there in the car with me. And I survived it. And I did nothing after that but keep running. Right? It got to a point where, and this is a story you've heard me say because it really summarizes everything with a good story, but I know you've heard it before, but the big summary to me was about, it was I went home and I was stoned on the front porch. I was trying to get into the house, and I recognized my parents were there. My parents always stopped and talked to me. There was no way they were not going to know that I was not in a good spot. They didn't have any idea what I was doing. I was going to break their heart. It wasn't I was so scared for myself. I knew I would break their heart. So I did this crazy thing. I began praying. Here's my prayer. Jesus, I know this is crazy, but you got to get me through this. It's going to kill them if they find out I'm stoned, and it's going to kill him. So I need you to figure out a way to get me through this. And I'd already been on the porch. They were waiting for me to come in. They already heard me, so I couldn't go to the back door. There's no other way out. My parents were both right there. So I just said, God, help me. Jesus, help me. And as I said that, I started talking to Jesus, and I opened the door, and they both got up and did things, and I walked right through, and I went upstairs, and then, as you know, I began thanking Jesus for that. And I realized I'm talking to Jesus. This is not good. I'm stoned. I'm talking to Jesus. So I said, okay. And I didn't know what to do, so I just shut up. And then he said this, the best I can say. It wasn't audible, but it was as clear as if Doug said it to me. David, I can do a lot more than this for you. And that's all he said. You know what I did? I kept moving away from him. Till finally, I stopped. And I repented. And I repented by simply letting him pick me up. I quit running, and I turned to him and said, I can't do this. And I let him pick me up. Best decision of my life. Now, we just need to understand, this is Jesus, our King's nature. So, it's there all the time. If you find yourself moving away from God, here's his nature. He's just going to come closer to you. Sin some more. He'll come a little closer to you. Not because he's trying to condemn you, because he's trying to save you. Because he knows where you belong. He knows what you need. He's somebody who will not quit searching. He's that kind of a God. He loves us, and he'll never be happy till we're close to him. In the sense that he's able to always love us. This is his nature. And so, this is good news. Just take in what it means to have a God that thinks of you like this. That at your worst place, he's taking you a minute later saying, we gotta have a party for this guy, right? What is that? Who am I for that to happen? I don't know, but it's a really good news. So the worst team can come up. Let's go for some invitation here. Moving yourself towards Jesus. Here's what I want us to really do. Today and throughout this week and hopefully on, that we'll just keep reflecting on how valuable you are to Jesus. It's really makes him glad when we understand this, right? It blesses him when we think about this. And what it cost him to seek and save you. You know how much it cost him? How much you're worth of what he paid his whole life so you could have the ability to go back to where you belong, where sin has kept you from. And then how much joy there was when he found you. Now this is pretty wild. Those moments that you turn and repent and turn back to him after being away from him, it's not like, finally, Stark, how long would this take? It's like party time, and somehow, actually, there's a party going on in heaven because of that. Just take that in. And moving others towards Jesus, it's like, see everyone as Jesus sees them, right? The more they sin, the more you're compassionate. The more they're not doing the right things, the more you want to pursue and let God find them. And so, be a friend to those who are separated from God. And tell them really specifically how God found you. Which tells them all about how good he is and how he feels about them as well.